Hello retirees and soon-to-be retirees. My name's Steve Kimos and I was a teacher, a counselor, a guidance chair, a school administrator, a PPW, and the court liaison for pupil services for 15 years. And after 30 years, I retired from the school system. And before I retired and up to this day, I'm getting a lot of calls about retiring, and some people are confused about certain aspects of how our retirement works. So I was asked to make a short video about retiring and the process of retiring and moving. So hang around and we'll talk about what I learned. So this video applies to Baltimore County Public Schools or Maryland State retirement folks, whether you're in the school system or not. Some of this applies. So the first thing you do is you say, can I retire? You meet with a financial planner and you lower your overhead and you say, okay, it's time. And you know when it's time. You kind of know when it's time to move on. Now, I retired at 55 years old, so I have a second career. But you can choose not to have a second career, because the difference between what I bring home in retirement and what I brought home while working is pretty close. It's about $1,000 a month difference. That's it. So you can certainly, if you manage your money, retire. So you need to determine what system you're in. Some people are still around or in the system before me, but most people are about to retire or in the system called the Teachers Pension Alternative Contributory Benefit. It's a mouthful. But that's the system that we're in now. Now, all this can be found in the handbook on the MSDE website or the Maryland State Retirement website. If you haven't already, you need to go there, make an account, and run your simulations. I can't tell you how close these simulations are to what I actually got. I actually got $10 more than they predicted. So when you go to the system and you run your simulations, you can choose to run the simulations as if you took your retirement in bulk, or if you are taking the full amount by a month, or you're taking giving half to your spouse, or giving it all to your spouse. Now, I chose option 6, and this is all renegotiated, every contract, but it stayed relatively the same for the past decade. So the option I chose was I'm getting a little less every month, but if my wife passes away, it bounces up to the full amount. Otherwise, if I pass away, she gets half of my pension for the rest of her life. Now, I could have done it where she got the full pension. I would have even taken a little bit less. So you got to choose the options that you want. You run your simulations and you'll see what you bring home. And that leads me to deductions. What comes out of your check? Well, in pension checks, the only thing that comes out is your federal and state taxes. And because I moved to Florida, I don't have state taxes. So that saved me $440 a month. That's a $5,000 a year raise just by moving to Florida. Now, there's some other states where that applies, but many states, they tax your pension. And while we're on the subject of deductions, let's talk about state pickup. You'll see that on your taxes now, and you'll see that in retirement. What does that mean? So our pensions are pre-tax. So we don't pay federal taxes. We don't pay federal taxes on our pension. It comes out, and our taxes are based on that money that's already out. But Maryland state taxes, we do pay Maryland state taxes. It's called the state pickup all through our career and our contributions. So at the end, you've already paid taxes on that money. So you're not going to pay taxes on it a second time. So your first 3 or 4 years in Maryland, you're not going to pay state taxes because you've already paid on your contributions. It's a little hard to understand, but basically for 2 or 3 years, depending on how your calculations work, you don't have to pay Maryland state taxes for those years until you catch up, and then you start paying your Maryland taxes. So that's how state pickup works. Again, throughout this whole video, my information's on the screen a couple times, and it's in the information below. Call me. A lot of you have my number, so give me a call. So now let's talk about sick time. Some people have called and they said, well, Steve, I have a year of sick time, so can I retire at 29 years and get my full benefits? And you can't. The way our calculations work are based on your highest 3 years. Now, the people behind us, it's your highest 5 years. But for people in this system, it's your highest 3 years. Actually, just to go off on a little bit of a tangent, those in the different system behind us, they can't retire until they reach what's called the rule of 90. So the years they worked and their age must equal 90. If I was under that system, I'd have to work another 5 years until my age and the years I worked equal 90 before I could retire. But because I'm in the teacher's pension alternative contribute benefit, I can retire at 30 years, whether I'm 52, 56, 57. At 30 years, I can go where the group behind us, they can't. They have to wait a little bit. So with our sick time, after you get your 30 years, you are allowed to have 15 sick days applied to your retirement for every year. So if you take 15 sick days, and just say you don't take very many at all, say you take none. So you take 15, you multiply that if you retire at 30 years by 30, and you get 450 hours, or 1.8 years of service. So in your calculation now, you have your highest 3 years, and that's taken into account with how many years you work. And for me, it's 31.8 because I retired at 30 years. And that's how sick time works. Now, you can carry more than that. Say I work 31 years, I get another 15 days added. 32 years, another 15 days added. 33 years, another 15 days added. But it takes a lot of years before you'll see any difference really in your paycheck, your pension paycheck. Okay, your vacation time. You're allowed to carry 337 hours of vacation that you get a lump sum payout when you retire. So I had the maximum amount of vacation. In fact, I had 100 hours over that I lost, that I will never see again. So I advise you to take your vacation time up until 337.5 hours, or you'll lose it. But you got to pay taxes on that. So I had a $23,000 paycheck for my vacation payout, and I brought home $13,000. So it's a lot of taxes that comes out of that money. But know that that's a nice little bonus when you retire. It helps you move, helps you set up, may help you with closing costs on a house if you decide to move. So keep in mind you get the payout up to 337.5 hours. Retiree medical benefits are negotiated every so often, every two years or so. You're not going to pay much more than you pay now. So I'm going to put up a chart here that is given to Baltimore County and state employees every fall about choosing what plans you want. And at the end of that booklet, there is the retiree payout, how much you have to pay for your health care. So if you take a look, you can see how that kind of works and what you'll pay. You'll pay your dental, your minimal vision, and then depending on what you choose and the number of years you work, what will come out of your paycheck every month. So take a look at the chart. Okay, reemployment. So you can't reemploy with your employer that you've retired from unless you have a bona fide separation of service. That's usually 45 days, but the IRS can be a little finicky about that. You're going to have to talk to your financial advisor just to make sure when your separation is considered bona fide and long enough. And then you can come back to work, but you have an earnings limit. You can't make more than you made when you were working. So, for me, that would be, $45,000 would be my earnings limit, because the $45,000 combined with my pension gives me roughly what I would have made if I was still working. Now, of course, that $45,000 gets deductions taken out, where my pension only gets state taxes taken out. So my pension only gets $600 a month taken out. That's it. That's the only deduction I have besides my $160 of health care. Retiring early. I used to look at the retirement announcements that would come in through the email. And I would see people retiring at 28, 27, 29 years. And I thought, oh my goodness, do they know the money they're leaving on the table? Because now you can't claim till 62 years old, and it's a reduced benefit. So I'm putting up an old statement of benefits that shows the difference if I would have left in May before 30 years or July after 30 years. It's a significant difference. Take a look at that. So in the end, stay 30. Do everything you can to stay your 30 years. Your health benefits, of course, are also less if you stay your 30 years. Health benefits are through the county, and your salary, your pension, the money you get is through the state. So there's a difference there. Lastly, I'll talk about what you do when you retire. If you're like me, 55, you go into another career, or you don't have to. Once we get our Social Security, and let me give you my spiel on Social Security and then my information on moving. You'll hear different financial planners and different people say different things about waiting to take Social Security. So if you're working and you're 62, 63, 64, 65, before 67, and you're making a lot of money, there's no need to take it because you get penalized pretty heavily. You give back every dollar basically for every $2 you make. But I'm going to take my Social Security early. I'm taking it at 62 or 63. Because when I do the calculations, and I've done these calculations with my financial advisor, it takes me 10 years to 11 years to break even. So if I waited until 67 and I didn't collect, let's say $2,000 a month after taxes for, 5 years, it's $100,000. So I don't take that. Or I could take that and I could put it in an investment and make 7% on it if I wanted. But if I don't take that money at all, and I wait to full retirement age, which is 67 years old, if you add on that 10 years that it takes me to break even, I'm 77 years old before I'm making money. I'm on the plus side of that. Now, some financial planners I talk to, they say there's 3 phases of retirement. There's the go-go years, which I'm in now, 55 to 65, where you're young, you can travel, you can do things, and that's where I want the money. I worked, I gave the government that money, I want it back. Especially if I pass away, I don't get the money. So I'm going to take it, assuming I'm going to live, and I'm going to travel and buy things and do things with that money. So after the go-go years are what are known as the slow-go years. Now this is different from everybody and everybody's health and fitness. I get that. But from 65 to 75 are the slow-go years. You start to slow down. You start to get tired. Medical issues start to creep in with you or your significant other or your family. And so you're less mobile. You're less out there spending money. And then finally they call them the no-go years. 75 to 85. Because the average age, for males, depending on which study you look at, is 78 years old, to 82 years old, depending on what you look at. And so I don't need the money, the extra money when I'm that age. My bills should be covered. I'm not going to give it to a nursing home or a rehab facility, or I don't have a lot of plans to leave that money anywhere. So at that point, I'm not going to need it. So I'm advising my friends to take it early instead of waiting till 77, your average life expectancy, before you break even. So after my reasoning of Social Security, we'll now go to what to do. If you're lucky enough in retirement and you're able to have 2 residences, that's great. You can go between 2 residences. A lot of people don't want to move to Florida or the Carolinas or Maine or Colorado because they want to be near their family and grandkids here, and I get that. And they can afford 2 residences. We chose not to do that. We chose to have our main residence in Florida. So we're here for 6 months, 8 months a year, and we are under the Florida tax system, and then we travel. We travel, out of the state in the, in the fall, or we'll go skiing in the winter, or, if we had two places, we're stuck in two places, paying taxes, escrow, maybe a mortgage in one of those places. But if we rent for a month or two, it's less than I'd pay in taxes and insurance in a house somewhere else. And if we don't like it there, we can go somewhere else the next year. We're not tied to a certain place. Many of my friends, their main residence is Maryland, up by their family, and then they come south and have a little condo down here for the winter months. Either way you do it, whatever way it works for you, that's great. We chose to come to Florida. With Florida, I've researched all up and down. I love the Gulf Coast, but I'm a surfer, so I wanted the coast with the waves. I also looked at the different parts of the East Coast. So down by Miami, all the way up to West Palm-ish, Jupiter-ish is the Gold Coast. And then from West Palm, Jupiter, up through Stewart, Port St. Lucie, and Fort Pierce is the Treasure Coast. And then above that, you have Vero Beach in there too. And then above there, you have Sebastian all the way to Orlando, which is the Space Coast. We chose the Treasure Coast after a lot of research because the Treasure Coast has land. Port St. Lucie in particular, they have land to build, and they have a whole host of builders to choose from in different kind of neighborhoods. And it's back near 95. And Port St. Lucie's strange that way. Most of the counties in Florida, the closer you get to the water, the ocean, the more expensive your house gets. And that's true as you get out in Port St. Lucie by Hutchinson Island. But otherwise, the houses are more expensive the closer you get to 95 because people travel north and south to work. Going north and south to work, they save a lot of money because the house that you get in Port St. Lucie, you get so much more house than if you were down south. For example, my house here that I bought for around $450,000, if I moved it into Palm Beach County, or even Martin County, but my house would be $700,000. So, up here in Florida, you get so much more house that people choose to do the commute and have the nicer, bigger house on the bigger lot and have some area. Plus, I looked at Tradition Florida. If you're thinking about moving to Florida, research the Treasure Coast, research Vero Beach, Fort Pierce, Port St. Lucie, Stewart. But Port St. Lucie was our choice, and we chose Tradition Florida. So do your research on Tradition Florida. It is a really nice, up-and-coming area. It's a master plan community. Hour and a half, hour 40 minutes from Orlando, 2 hours from Miami, and then the Keys are right beyond Miami if you want to go that way. You're far enough west where you're not in the storm surge. Here, I don't have to have flood insurance, but I do. I recommend having flood insurance. But you're not in a flood zone, you're not in an evacuation zone, you're not in a storm surge zone. And these newer houses, ever since Andrew, and many of the builders up here use the Miami-Dade code, hurricane, not proof, but hurricane impact windows and doors, poured block concrete walls, triple roof tie downs. They're little hurricane fortresses. So I feel much safer living out here in Tradition than closer to the coast. On top of that, we're having a whole house generator installed in case we do lose power. We just flip a switch and it runs off propane and we have power for weeks. But the people around here are saying they don't lose power. That was a waste of my money, but it's a waste of your money until you need it. So we'll see how that goes. So that's my pitch. And if you're thinking about coming to Florida, give me a call. I got my real estate license and I can help anybody who's in Maryland State or a teacher retiree, and I can work with the fee. I've been through it, and I can teach you what I've learned, and hopefully you'll love it here. I think you will. So hope to hear from you soon. Enjoy your retirement when you get there. Thanks.